Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. We'd ask that you please take your seats as tonight's second debate gets underway. This marks the second portion of tonight's debate, as many of you know, but we'll cover some familiar ground first for those that may be just joining us now. Firstly, once again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to attend tonight and participate in the local democratic process. It's good to see everybody taking the time to turn out and to learn more about our candidates for elected office here tonight. I also want to take a quick opportunity to thank this evening's sponsors again, the Fergus Falls Daily Journal and PEG Access Television. Both organizations have committed their time, staff, and resources to help make this possible. And finally, I want to thank the school district and the Kennedy Secondary School staff for affording us an ideal venue for tonight. With all that having been said, let's meet your candidates for Fergus Falls City Council Wards 3 and 4 in 2018. Candidates, I'd ask that you please stand as you're introduced so the audience can get to know you. From left to right, they are Ward 3 candidate and incumbent Justin Arneson. Please join me in a round of applause. Ward 4 candidate and incumbent Rod Speedo. And Ward 4 candidate John Strauch. I would also like to acknowledge Ward 4 candidate Caroline Gustafson, who is unable to attend this evening. We wish her the best in her ongoing campaign. In a moment, we'll allow each of the candidates to provide a personal introduction to themselves and their campaigns, but for those who weren't here earlier, a brief reintroduction to the rules and etiquette for the debate. As the conversation begins, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Then, questions in the debate proper will be underway. My name again is R.C. Drews, and it will once again be my privilege to serve as moderator throughout the proceedings. To the audience members, I would ask that you refrain from applause, cheering, or any other show of preference outside of the candidate introductions and the event's conclusion. We want to ensure that we can include as many questions as possible into the 1 hour we've allotted this evening, and we also want to ensure a respectful atmosphere for all candidates. To our candidates and the audience, a reminder of the process tonight. During the question phase of the debate, responses will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. At the 1 minute mark, our official in the front row will hold up a yellow card to indicate that fewer than 60 seconds remain. And when the stopwatch reaches 10 seconds left, he'll hold up a red card. Should a candidate exceed the maximum time limit, it will be my responsibility to interrupt at that time out of fairness to the other candidates. Candidates, in the event that you wish to make a rebuttal following another speaker's statements, I ask that you simply raise your hand and gain eye contact with myself. If the divergence seems appropriate, I will, as soon as the speaking candidate concludes, permit the rebuttal and allow 30 seconds for a counterstatement. Once again, please know that the questions tonight have been written by myself and are known to myself only in the interest of fairness. Furthermore, questions which were asked during our first debate will not be repeated during the second debate, again, to ensure that no candidate has an unfair advantage through preparation and rehearsal. Some of our questions came from public submissions, and we thank those of you who took the time to submit a question. Finally, I would remind our candidates to speak loudly and enunciate clearly, and myself. The microphones in front of you will only pick up if your responses are facing them, and please ensure that your microphones are facing accordingly for the sake of the audience and for those watching via PEG Access Television's broadcast. Without further ado, we will now hear an introduction from each of the candidates, beginning once again from left to right. Mr. Arneson, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. As he said, my name is Justin Arneson. I'm a resident of Ward 3. I grew up in this community. Had an opportunity to go to high school here in this school right here, and I was blessed with an opportunity to play sports. I attended M-State, or what at that time was Fergus Falls Community Technical College. And so I have a lot of passion for Fergus Falls. Fergus Falls has given a lot back to me, and I currently have a business in town as a financial advisor. A little bit of my background: I married my high school sweetheart, who I met at this school. We have 3 beautiful children who I'm looking forward to raising in this community. We love this community, and I just don't have enough good things to say about this community. We've come a long way. I've had the privilege in my first campaign being on the City Council. I learned a lot. We've worked through a lot of challenges together, and I look forward to continuing that progress. We still have a lot to do, but as stated in the earlier debate, we got to do it together, and so I look forward to being a part of that and being part of that team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you to the Journal for hosting this forum and debate. My name is Rod Speedall. I live at 1010 Meadow Hill Lane in Ward 4. My background in Fergus Falls started when I was brought along with my parents in 1954 when they moved here from Madison, Minnesota, to help out my dad's brother whose wife had polio. So they uprooted from Madison to came here, opened Speedall Ski and Sports Shop. And my mom had a radio station downtown when it was KOTE. I remember that. And so we had ongoing business interests in Fergus, small business, and my mom was a home ec agent in Grant County. I grew up in Fergus Falls playing sports, swimming in the Otter Tail River, all the way from the power plant down to the trestle and other places. I love Fergus Falls, rode my motorbike on the dairy property, the old dairy property when I was a teenager. And I'm here with my family. We bought our first house that we ever owned. We moved around and we're in missions. I served as a missionary and a pastor. I served as an educator in college. And also had my own business at one point where we had 50 employees over a course of a season. My wife and I, Alice, always return to Fergus Falls as our first love, our hometown, the place that we want to be. And so I ran for city council as a way to show that I could help give back, as Justin has said, to a community that's given so much to us, and a beautiful, beautiful town. I do want to say, too, that as a council member, I've had some fun. Not too long ago, I was called to take care of a skunk. So if you're running for council, you might get called for almost anything. And we did take care of the skunk that was caught. And I've also walked with citizens a petition on speed limits on West Elcott. I've spent time looking at alleyways and people that cut across and create unsafe situations. There's so many different things as a council member, and I enjoy most of them. The other thing I just wanted to mention that in the first term, I've worked hard, especially on single sort recycling, which has been something in our family for many years. Always recycling. My wife much better than I have, but now with the single sort, I do it too, and I do it much more easily. So it's nice to get things done, and I feel we've gotten some things done as a team. As Justin mentioned, it takes all of us. It takes the city staff, it takes the council, it takes research, it takes other people in the community. I'm glad to be on the council. I want to hope you'll vote for me again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stroke, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thanks, Ryan, and all the people who showed up tonight. I'd like to say my name's John Stroke. I was born in Fergus Falls in 1961. Went to school here, grew up seeing many changes. Some of them being the old high school that burnt down, the mall being built, Mid-Am Dairy closing up, a lot of different things happening in our city. I spent many hours at the old library and really liked the historical part of some of our buildings in town and like to see them stay. I have lived here all my life except for 7 years that I was in Colorado, where I learned a trade from my uncle doing tiling and flooring business and also painting, which I now have my own business. I'm married to a wonderful wife, Cindy Lou. I have 2 daughters, and some of the things I've been involved in is the redevelopment plan for the RTC. When the state decided to give it to the city, I was involved with that, decisions and meetings, and there was a rezoning committee that was brought together to study rezoning Stanton and Lincoln Avenue and what to do with the dairy property and the flour mill property, if the city ever acquired it, or what, Steve Cheney out of Minneapolis has owned it for many years. I also ran for council and mayor in the past, went to many council meetings, been involved in watching things happen and trying to make changes when I could or address situations. It's been a passion of mine to be part of this city and to help make choices that help everybody and put Fergus Falls in the right direction. Sometimes I see that we could have more things done in our city instead of outsourcing it to other areas, other people, other towns. One of my big passions is consultants and money that can be spent on our city wisely instead of making sure of where them dollars go. And so that's why I'm running. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now begin the debate proper. As a reminder, our candidates will each be allowed 2 minutes to respond to the question asked. The order of questioning will rotate one candidate to the right after each question in the interest of fairness. And again, we ask that the audience would withhold from applause during this part of the debate, and please silence your phones and electronic devices. For our first question, we look first to you, Mr. Arneson. A Facebook post shared yesterday by the Daily Journal highlighted a local rider touring the city with a sign that reads, "Let's save Fergus Falls." The comments which followed, while certainly not proof positive of public perception, showed a trend of negative sentiments. My question then is this: is Fergus Falls dying?
It's a wonderful question, RC. In my opinion, we are not dying. Outward looking, we've had a few stores close. If you look nationwide, that's been the trend with these big retail stores. If you look at our growth in the city, we have a lot of things going for this community. If you look at the school, their enrollment is up. Their numbers in the pre-K, kindergarten, first, second, third are a lot larger than they have been in the past, which means we've got kids in the community. We've got some challenges to certainly face, some adversity, and that's one of them. But in a competitive nature, you really find out what type of city you got when you're challenged with adversity. And when things are going well, you don't really see how well the community is. I really truly think that we're in the right direction and we're in the right path to face this. We can do it together. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but we've got a lot of things in place to build upon those foundations. And I think, again, we've got a great council currently working. We've got great staff behind it. We've got quite a few initiatives within the community and user groups that are starting that heavy lifting. And so I don't believe our city's dying. We just got to look for some different paths, different modes to continue changing that message.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall, your thoughts?
Dying is a long process, and in seriousness, I've watched both of my parents pass away in different stages. The seriousness of what Fergus Falls is encountering cannot be downplayed, in my opinion. We have businesses closing, and there's a condition where you can get into kind of a stasis where things are happening, but they're not happening fast enough to keep up with other regional activity. And one of the things I'd like to highlight about, and it's a very good question, Ryan, that we shouldn't focus on the fact we're dying. We need to focus on how to be healthy as we can. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure we have adequate, good jobs in Fergus Falls and businesses that are healthy and can grow. Now, how do you do that? That's the big question. It's easy to say we need businesses and jobs. But the larger question is we have to be a community where people want to come and work and live and play and stay. Now, in the future, 2021, we'll have Otter Tail Power will be closed. That's going to take a big hunk of change away from what compensates now for part of our tax levy. Over $250,000. We have to make that up. And one of the things when I got into office is that I started right away looking for how can we go after low-hanging fruit that will help this. What I found is that the state is giving grants out for recreational development, and recreational and economic development go together right now in many cities, and we're on that track. And so, for instance, the short answer is the dairy property can provide, once it's developed, over $200,000 a year, and we're losing over $250,000 to Otter Tail Power's closing in 2021. That is a positive and a real answer to the question of how we do it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, your thoughts?
Well, I've been here since 1961, and the population is about the same, give or take, than now as it was then. So we're not really dying. but we're staying the same. In these years, I've seen Fergus grow in a retirement community. We've built a lot of apartments behind the old Target store and in that area for retirement farmers and people coming into the community. And in that resort, we have done well. Do we want younger families to come here? If so, we need to fill our schools and stuff. We need to give them good paying jobs. We need to give them an incentive to come here. There's many other towns that they can go to. And so it's kind of looking at what do we want for our town. If we want to bring in families and younger people, we need to make sure we have good paying jobs that can support a person to live and take care of your family. I have great opportunities for this town that I think we can do awesome things if we come together and let the citizens work together with the council and the staff. And as a team, I think we can accomplish a lot, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, candidates. For our second question, roadways are a hot topic both regionally and across the country. In Fergus Falls, many have taken exception with the condition of some of our major thoroughfares. What do you believe needs to be done about the condition of local roadways, and where will the funding come from? Mr. Speedall, we ask you first.
Thank you for the question. It's been an activity and a major concern of the council, especially in this last year, to put more money in roadways. We've gone ahead, and I'm very much in favor, and part of that motion that we allocate 20% in general more than we have over the next 5 years. And the reason being that over the studies we've just done, we've realized that we have not put in enough inputs into keeping the roads up in the first 10 years. And when you don't do that, you get on the wrong side of the curve. And so our roadways are deteriorating faster than we can repair them. So we must put in this extra 20%, which means we have to cut and save in other areas. We can't just spend more and not be cognizant of the taxpayers. But we need this infrastructure. And so we are putting that effort forward now. And I believe the city is on good financial footing, and with wise use of our resources, we can make this happen and preserve and improve our roads, which we must do.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch.
Well, I drive these streets every day like most of us do, and I too believe that we need some serious attention on our streets. You have Lake Alice and that project, and it all comes down to where do you get the dollars? Well, I have been a strong advocate that we need to watch where the dollars go. We are being proposed by the City Council now for amphitheater downtown. We don't even know what the price of that is. No one's told us what the price is going to cost, but we spent almost $300,000 designing this. That's money that could go into streets. That's money that could to fix our infrastructure. I think that's a priority, and the river and that area is awesome, and we can do that. We can have volunteers that can help and avoid costs. We can figure out plans that don't take as much money, and we can accomplish both areas that we need to do, our river and our streets, if we do it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Arneson.
We just concluded as a council with SRF, a pavement street management system. Prior to that, we really didn't have a good grasp on the entire roadway within our city. I got educated a lot during that because through that presentation, I can't remember what they call it, but basically the street quality over the period that we'd be spending this 20% increase still went down by 25% almost, which meant we were at a deficit of in the realm of, I think it was $37 million in a deficit. So I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to fix all the roads in our community. I think it is going to take a conservative effort to look for dollars when we can to put them into our roads. I think, though, that we can't hold everything else within the city strictly for the roads. I think there's other initiatives that are going on that we have to be cognizant of that are going to help as we increase, hopefully, with economic development and tax dollars, more people in the city sharing that expense. We could allocate maybe more money to the roads, but I don't think the answer is putting everything into the roads. It's something we're cognizant of. We have our finger on it, and hopefully through this study we've got identified streets within wards to get on a pavement management time schedule to get them improved. But like I said, even if we were to, with this 20% increase in dollars in 10 years, we're still sitting at a $37 million deficit roughly of our roads, which that's a lot. And so there is no quick fix, but we're certainly cognizant of it, and it's something that we need to be aware of and work towards.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall?
There's been comments made about saving money and watching our spending, and I agree with those totally. But to get out of the cycle we're in, we must both save and create new initiatives, because we need new people in town, increase our tax base, or we will not be able to maintain these roads no matter how much we try and save. So we have to attract new businesses, and that's the reason we need to go after some of the grant money, and I've done that in my first term. And that money turns over in Fergus. For instance, $600,000 turning over 5.5 times is a lot of revenue and a lot of stimulation for other projects. So it's a both and, I believe. Save money, but also go after everything we can to stimulate that economy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For our third question, hot on the heels of last year's downtown and riverfront master plan and the recently heard but perhaps not concisely named Northeast River Reach Small Area Plan, which examined possibilities for land surrounding the Hoot Lake Power Plant, some citizens have taken to criticizing City Hall for over-planning without first completing existing projects. If elected to office, how will you get results? Mr. Strauch, we ask you first.
Well, I totally agree with some of that there about we need to concentrate on what we have on our plate first. And things will fall into place as they come along. We have a lot of buildings on our western part of our town that are empty. Years ago, we wanted everybody to go from downtown moving west, and they did, and that was great. But now we need to look at what we got, and it's kind of like with my business, or any business. You don't start a project, leave it half done, and start another project, and continue to do that over and over and over, and expect to get finished results. We need to take a project at a time, figure out if that's a feasible project, is it something that's going to help the community, and can we afford it? And when you answer those questions, then you move forward. You succeed by getting one done at a time. And to have the people involved is critical. I think the more we communicate with the residents of the city, the more we're going to find out what is acceptable for our dollars and what needs to be done. And when we do that, we'll all win. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Arneson, your comments?
That's a hard answer. That's a really hard question. My answer to that question is you need to be able to multitask to be a community that's going to go forward. If you look at a lot of other communities, if you work on one project, and we've noticed this in this community before, you have a silo project, and 5 years after the project is completed, and all of a sudden you have a plan, and you wish you would have known about that ahead of time because it wasn't in the plan. I think this town needs to change their mindset to say that we need to be functional. We need to work on more projects than one at a time. There's certainly the cognizant side saying that we need to be able to achieve the plan and complete the plan, but I think we have a lot of things going on in the community that cohesively need to make sense. We don't want to be building something in one area if we don't have a total comprehensive plan. And we're currently sitting at a position where this city of our size does not have a comprehensive plan for our city. What a comprehensive plan in light is basically how does the citizen see the city direction going forward? And that affects our ordinances, that affects the building zoning code, that affects the direction of the city. And I think we need to have that accompanied with the planning I am certainly cognizant of having too many plans and getting nothing done, but I certainly think we need to be versatile and being able to be functional and work on multiple plans at one time so we can, because there are funding mechanisms that come up at different times, and if we have a plan in place for multiple things, we can take advantage, as Rod said, to be flexible because we already have a plan in place for that. It might not be something you're going to get done in 2019, but it's a 5-year, 10-year outlook plan, so thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall.
Thank you, Ryan. We have done our planning already, and yes, we have expended some money to go all the way from downtown, all the way along the river down to the dairy. We've acquired the dairy. We've gotten that done. I went after $600,000. We got it. That's going to help pay for a large part of it. That dairy price came down from $1 million to $175,000. We could make the dairy work. We're going to finish that dairy, and I think we should do it. I hear people saying, no more plans. Don't spend money on more planning. I agree. We've got our plate full right now. We've already planned enough to take care of this next 4 years. And Fergus Falls has 600 acres of wild and parkland. We don't need to add a bunch more to mow or anything else. We need to take care of what we're doing right now. And as far as looking at projects, any project, Ryan and everyone, I believe we need to look at 3 criteria. First of all, what is the general appetite of the public? We need to know what people want. We need to truly understand the representation of Fergus Falls. Secondly, we need to understand where is the money coming from. Both the project I've worked on and the other one was working on getting the money for the downtown walking bridge, upgrading and repaving the whole downtown Riverwalk for 2 blocks from Veterans Park down to City Hall. I helped go after money for that with the council approval, with staff, but also got involved in the leadership. Let's go get that money. And Justin knows that. We've worked on that stuff. And we all need to be a team. But to do that, those kind of things, you have to have money, and you got to know where to look for it. So I did that. The third thing is it sustainable? Any project we do should be sustainable and not cost us every year like a weight on the taxpayers. And so those 3 things are crucial to new projects. What's the appetite? How can we pay for it? And is it sustainable?
Thank you, sir. A recent letter to the editor published by the Daily Journal put a spotlight on issues of racial intolerance in Fergus Falls. How will you work, if elected, to ensure people of all backgrounds and beliefs are heard and supported in Fergus Falls? Mr. Arneson, we ask you first.
Thanks for the question. I think the way I was raised is treat people with respect, treat people with how you would like to be treated. And as a city council member, my job is to hear from the citizens, whether they're in my ward or not. It doesn't matter what ethnic background you come from, your color, your race, female, male, doesn't matter. My job is to, the good Lord gave me 2 ears, and I like to use them and listen, and take that feedback and go back to see how we can improve the situation with staff or the other council. I guess I haven't come up against that challenge in my current 4 years. I don't think I've ever been approached from somebody where there's been an issue on that. So I guess that's news to me, but I guess that would be my stance is, be respectful, treat others as you want to be treated. And, we're there to be that conduit and facilitator between City Hall and their concerns. And so that's, how I've always taken this role, and that's how I'll continue.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. From the beginning, a recent letter to the editor, published by the Daily Journal, put a spotlight on issues of racial intolerance within Fergus Falls. How will you, if re-elected, work to ensure people of all backgrounds and beliefs are heard and supported in Fergus Falls?
Thank you, Ryan. Having worked across cultures, worked in cultures of different religions, very different backgrounds and ethnicities, I'm well aware of the challenges of that kind of a question. I will say, as far as the article, I don't think personally that it represents all of Fergus Falls. I think it's a tragic and difficult situation when anyone uses racial slurs, attacks someone unnecessarily, verbally or otherwise, and I believe that pain was terrible for the person, and I think they communicated that. However, I also know that Fergus Falls has had a history of having people of different backgrounds in Fergus Falls, and there have been many positive stories which also we need to highlight. But we need to just as Justin said, we need to live and treat others as we want to be treated. And it isn't easy. We sometimes have to apologize. I've had to apologize to people when my views have gotten too strong. And, you know, we need to learn to ask forgiveness at times and to have some room and grace with each other. The other thing I'd say is the reigning culture in Fergus Falls has to adjust. We have to learn to accept some of the things, that challenges that come with growth and with where we're at today, and that includes our job market. So there's give and take on all sides there, I think, that we have to look at. It's a good question, though, and we should always be aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, your thoughts?
Well, on a personal level, I think each and every one of us should take that into consideration and to try to be the best person God gives us to treat other people. As a council member, I don't feel that is an issue that I can address as a council member unless, like, the police are doing something wrong, or a business or something where a council member has something to say in that matter. So to me, that question refers to our businesses, our churches, our people in our city on how we treat others. And that comes down to each and every one of us as to how we want to be treated ourselves and how we treat others. If there's an issue where somebody did something wrong, a business, like I say, the police officer, or something that somebody was offended for their race, then it becomes an issue maybe where a council member has to deal with that. But as far as a council member themselves, that I think is more of a citizens, and each one of us individually needs to look at that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I mentioned earlier the study conducted to evaluate the land around the Hoot Lake Power Plant. In anticipation of the facility's imminent closure, how financially can Fergus Falls counter that considerable loss of tax revenue without raising taxes on the average citizen? Mr. Speedall, I believe we'll ask you first.
Thank you. Well, I've alluded to it quickly. I'll just reiterate that we have to have a plan that increases our tax base, allows us to have money that will offset the closure of Otter Tail Power's coal-fired plant. And as I said, that those monies that we get from state grants both turn over in the community and create opportunities for business development. And I'll give you a good example of that. There was a study done of 5 cities in Wisconsin similar to the size of our city. They asked, what is the difference in some of these cities growing and others remaining stagnant or dying? And they looked at a number of factors, and what they found is you had to be close to an interstate highway, you had to have good health care, you had to have good schools, and you had to have a nice downtown. So they all had those. So what was the difference? The ones that grew provided year-round recreational economic opportunities, and many of them were along rivers that had trails. So what we find is economic development goes along with recreational development because people want to live there. Hoot Lake's closing can't be offset, as I said, by just trying to save money or putting it on the backs of people who have fixed incomes in Fergus Falls. We must create new businesses, and that's what we're doing with the development of the dairy along the river, the new development we're doing downtown on the Riverwalk, the river market, which will bring people into town and increase our tax, both sales tax and our tax base. Those are real solutions, and yeah, you can't say exactly how much that's going to be, but we're looking at enough to offset with the dairy and the development, if it's done right, $200,000 or more a year that will offset that tax levy, so we don't start with a 4 or 5% tax levy negative right away because of Hoot Lake's closing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, your perspective.
That's an issue that I've done a lot of thinking about. That power plant is owned by Otter Tail Power. A lot of the land out there is owned by Otter Tail Power. So to me, it makes sense that unless Otter Tail Power is going to give that land to the city, they are the ones that are going to be responsible to decide what happens to their land. So I don't see the taxpayers having to foot the bill to decide what Otter Tail Power is going to do with their land. As far as the loss of revenue, we need to look at how we can make that up. And hopefully Otter Tail Power, which is a business in this town for a long time and is a big player in this town, will be able to help step forward and to see what they can do to help the city and to help with this situation. Ultimately, it's going to take a lot of review and looking into this situation before it closes. And we have the staff to do that. We have people already working for the city that can look into this, do the evaluations, come up with decisions without spending money to outside firms to decide what to do in our city. I think that's a priority, and I'd like to see us go that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Arneson.
Well, Rod stole my notes on this one, but he had a lot of good highlighted points in there, and I think, I think it goes back to being creative. This community, we're faced with some adversity, and we can overcome it. And we've got a lot of good initiatives. We've got a Downtown River Council that's engaged. We've got an economic development team that's engaged with a lot of stakeholders in this community, from Lake Region Healthcare to M-State to a lot of local businesses. And I think it was stated earlier in the comments from Mr. Speedo that we need to come up with a plan for this, for people to want to come here, to live, work, and play and stay. And that's the path that we're going on. And I think there isn't one solution to make up for Otter Tail Power leaving. I think it's a combination of multiple things. There's a study out there that Rod shared with us as a council that for every dollar you spend on the river, it turns over 5 to 6 times in your community. And so this might not something we achieve exactly a dollar for dollar cost savings between now and when Hoot Lake closes, but I truly feel like the city is on a path to help with that, from economic development to outdoor recreational activities, from trails to an aquatic center. All of those things will drive this city, bring people to this community to stay, and maybe they decide to live here eventually. But I do think we need to be creative. There isn't one solution that's going to fix the problem of Otter Tail Power closing. But I think we've got a lot of things in place to continue working on. We've got a lot of work still to do, but it took a while to get those things in place. And so things have started to come together on that. And I'm very optimistic that, the people we have in place to get that done, they're the right people.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedo?
I would just like to address John's comment and say that I think it's well-intentioned to expect Otter Tail Power to do something, but I believe the future belongs to us to take control of that and to make the decisions we need to make to move forward on that. The role of a city council member is to create a future for the city that is strong and successful. So we've got to do that. And I got a button on it that says yes. Fergus Falls, yes. 20 new jobs by 2020.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. That marks the end of the first phase of our debate, and now we move into the next. As in our earlier debate, I will observe that one of the most difficult challenges for anyone in elected office is the need to think quickly during trying situations. For my next questions, I will address each candidate individually, asking one question each that will look at the potential weak points of your campaign and ask you to defend your platform. Beginning our rotation again, I believe you, Mr. Arneson, are up first. Mr. Arneson, you have the unique distinction during this election cycle of running unopposed. They say, however, that competition makes us stronger. Without a challenger for your seat, how do you maintain the drive to do your best?
I would agree with that statement that competition is good. Coming from a sports background, I love to compete. Running unopposed, I feel blessed to have the opportunity to potentially serve the city again for 4 years. I look forward to that challenge. What drives me, though, isn't to compete against somebody in this platform. It's really to have a passion for this community. This community's done a lot for me, and I want to be able to give back. And so that's what keeps me driving to succeed and to partner with the city council currently and the staff to how can we move this city forward, whether I'm in this seat or not. And I guess that's what I get up for every day, and I'll continue to do that until I'm no longer sitting in the seat.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedo, in 2014, you successfully won your seat as a write-in candidate, campaigning on promoting the Aquatic Center, saving the Kirkbride, and if I recall, smooth street repairs. 4 years later, and having shifted your stance slightly to allow for selective demolition at the RTC. Do you feel you've delivered on your initial promises?
Thank you, Ryan. I've looked over those bullet points. I had 7 or 8 of those. We have actually either fulfilled or in the process of fulfilling 5 of them. So if I'm a batter, I think I'm batting above 500. Not us, not we, I want to say, but all of us. Honestly, yes, I am. My leadership, Justin knows it, others knows it, I take leadership, but we depend on the city, we depend on staff, we depend on our teamwork. But in terms of that platform, yeah, we worked hard, and specifically I've looked at the wording. I said that I would work hard to find a development solution for the Kirkbride, not to save it. Those were my words. And so we have tried, and we had a new study, we went after it, we spent another year, and we found that we could not save the Kirkbride as one whole contiguous foundation, 1/3 of a mile. So someone had to take on all of the state historic preservation rules for the whole thing. And I know that Justin's aware of this. We went down to the cities at one point. We talked about with SHPO, we said, you've got to allow us to divide this up. We have to segment it up somehow. And that happened in our term. So we've made a huge stride, as well as getting the money from the legislature. So yeah, there are things you don't fulfill. You can be idealistic. You want someone, we can't get everything done. But I believe we've done a pretty good job altogether as a council.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have a rebuttal on that one?
Certainly, sir.
For me, I followed the RTC since the very beginning when the state gave it to Fergus Falls. And there's one in Michigan that was restored over a long period of time. I have repeatedly talked to the council about, instead of going at it where you got to do the whole thing at once with multiple money, do it at a little step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Strauch, you've run as a candidate for public office in multiple prior elections, but, at least to my knowledge, never found the necessary voter support. What makes, for you, this election different?
Well, it could end up the same way. It's all in God's hands as far as I'm concerned, and the voters. And there's a lot of people who want to see changes in Fergus Falls, me being one. I definitely want to see changes in Fergus. I want to see positive changes. I want to see this community grow. I want to see this town grow. I want to see it prosper. I like Fergus Falls very, very much. I've been here most of my life. It's what we do with the dollars and how we go about driving forward is what I want to be involved in. I see a lot of plans going forward, and some of them are great, and some of them I think we need to step back and say, how are we going to afford this, and how are we going to do this? And I'm hoping that this time around, people will elect me so that I can have an opportunity to be part of that decision making. The council makes decisions for everybody in this town. Every single day, they decide what's best for us. And I would really like to be a part of that, and I would like to bring as many people involved as I could, bring the citizens to come involved and to participate with the council. I think that's a key factor we need to work on, is to involving the citizens with the staff, with the council members. In the past, my council lady had meetings at her place with different residents, and then they in turn could go out and talk to other residents. And I think that's what we need to get back to, is our grassroots, and I'm hoping that I can be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, I want to thank you, candidates, for your patience and good humor as we've tackled some difficult questions this evening. At this point, we will allow this time each candidate's 3 minutes to provide a closing statement. Mr. Arneson, you'll go first.
Did you say 3 minutes or 2?
I did say 3 minutes
You only
this
allowed
time.
2 in the last one.
That is true.
Wow, see, I'm paying attention. Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for the Journal and PEG Access for getting this put together, and for the folks that aren't able to attend, I thank you for being able to watch on TV, and thanks for the audience to be able to attend. I also want to say thank you to the residents of my ward. For the first time around I got elected. It's been an honor to serve my ward. I really mean that wholeheartedly. It's been a humbling experience. I've learned a lot about our community. I've learned a lot about the engagement process, and I've learned a lot from the city staff side. Just like anything, I think education is a good thing. I've got a lot still to learn. I look forward to the challenges that face the city going forward, and I'm glad to be a part of that and to help with getting some solutions to some of the big issues that we're facing within our community. I embrace the adversity that we're challenged with. I think it's a good thing. It makes us be better. And I just want to be a part of the team to continue that and hopefully continue serving the community in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speedall, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I too want to thank again the Journal and those involved, PEG Access, the audience for coming out. This is what governing is about to me at the local level. It isn't about a party. It's not about just following something that someone says. It's getting things done together because you love the community. I feel that on the council, it's like a body when the Bible says, you know, the body has different parts and all function together. The importance of the council, I think, is that we do have a diverse bunch of gifts right now. But we're getting some things done, and that to me is crucial. We need to get stuff done for Fergus Falls. As we go forward, I guess I just wanted to say again, the teamwork we need is crucial. We have many initiatives, but we have to pull together. And I support the efforts of the mayor and our city administrator to pull us together and make sure we can keep focused on the priorities we need. I believe there's 2 things we have to do, and that's down from my 8, so I have learned something, you know, maybe in this. We need a year-round indoor-outdoor recreational kind of facility that collaborates, and I believe, I'm going to say this, it's a big thing, but bring in the YMCA, bring in the school district, bring in the city. Studies show that a city of our size has a difficult time doing one-off projects. No more one-off projects. Collaborate with as many people that will use the facility as possible, and then do something that truly sets us up as a regional attraction. And that's an indoor-outdoor facility. And that would include water facility for outdoor swimming and an indoor that can bring regional meets here. That includes other things, but we need to talk together about that. That's a long-term planning thing. On the short term, we need splash pads downtown in Fergus Falls. We need something that little kids can have fun in down there, and I think splash pads are long overdue, and it's a step in the right direction. Overall, we have to attract new businesses with attractive wages, and that is a big order, but we've got some good people going, working for that. Again, I want to thank the Fergus Falls people in Ward 4 for voting me in. I want to go again. I want to thank all my council members for working together, and I want to thank the City Fergus Falls staff, which has done an excellent job of working together with us and kind of training us in. I mean, there's a learning curve. I believe it took at least 2 years for me to figure out exactly how do you really get something done besides, you know, having ideas. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Speedall. Mr. Strauch, final statements.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody who put this together and all the people who came out to listen to us. I would definitely like to see the city go in the right direction. I'm all for the yes, get us in, you know, get us going. But in the same respect, we need to focus on what's available with us to do, how much people can help, and to concentrate on developing our city that we have, the areas that we need to work on, and still look at new projects. As far as the river is a great potential. We need to look at that and see how we can do things with the people. I think myself, people would rather come on board and donate their time than their money. We got to look at the possibilities of there's only so much in a dollar, and to itemize the projects that we need and the projects that we want, and what benefits the city most and the people in it and the growth of this community. We see communities around the area like Alexandria and other ones. The biggest thing is jobs that pay decent. We have an opportunity, I just recently found out about, many cows being brought into the area down by Morris. There's going to be a demand for cheese. We have an opportunity to possibly have a cheese factory in the area, or many other things that if we look at, we can find opportunities to bring good jobs into the area, which then brings revenue in, which then gives us the opportunity to do the projects that we like to do or we need to do, the river and other projects that people like. And so as we concentrate on getting those jobs that pay a decent wage, so families will be wanting to come to Fergus Falls and raise their children and come into our schools and spend their money here and raise their children, then we can look into other things and where we can progress from there. But ultimately, I would really like to see good paying jobs be our #1 priority, streets, infrastructure, our second priority, and from there, I think the opportunities are endless. And we as a community, if we bring the people on board, they will feel like they are part of it, and there won't be this feeling that the council is not transparent and nobody knows what's going on. We have that opportunity. It's up to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, candidates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and to those watching at home, that brings us to the conclusion of this evening's debate. Before we adjourn for the evening, I want to take one final opportunity to thank our sponsors, the Fergus Falls Daily Journal and PEG Access Television, for making this event possible. I want to thank our candidates for taking the time to be here today. And finally, a special thank you to everyone here in attendance and at home for being involved in local government and the future of Fergus Falls. A quick reminder again that elections will be held on Tuesday, November 6th. That date is only a little more than a month away. And once more, remember that although who you vote for can have a lasting impact, it is the ability to vote in and of itself that so many great men and women have given their lives to protect. Thank you all again. For those that would like, please feel free to stick around after the event to meet with the candidates individually. Thank you and good night. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. Good luck.